What's up, everyone? This is the version 0.15 patch rundown. Looks like it's a pretty hefty patch for Predecessor. I'm kind of excited to take a jump in, look to see what's in here. I took an initial glance through some of this already. Overall, a lot of good changes in here. I am going to look at it through the lens of more like an offlane perspective. Kind of glance over, maybe talk about certain things that don't necessarily pertain to offlane, but overall, I'm going to spend more time talking about those pieces that maybe more directly impact offlaners as a whole. So to start out, we have Argus, the new hero. Um, Very much like the kit. I like how they introduce some verticality. The one spell, I believe it's the crystal. I like the fact that you can use it for mobility, use it as a slow, use it for control zones as well. So it's nice to see that they're kind of uh Omeda's being a little bit more generous with some of the stuff that we can see going forward with some of their original heroes. Um, but I'm really happy with that. I'm curious to see how Argus plays out. I do think Argus will very likely be a mid laner or support. It wouldn't shock me if Argus is played in either of those roles. And we have the Amber, the new soft currency. Um, I think anyone who's been around and saw the hero contracts to start off with, there's a lot of opinions and all of that kind of floating around. I really think Omeda dialed it in pretty well with this. I'm glad they took the time to make this the way it should have been. People have their own thoughts and opinions. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, if you will. But I mean, they dialed it back. They brought the Amber out. Um, I am kind of disappointed that it didn't come sooner, but you know it's out now. We get to do the testing on it, and then hopefully down the line, once the testing is all good to go, we're bringing that into um, the mastery, or not the mastery, but the hero affinity. So cool to see there. We have the Mighty Dreadlord Argus bundle. I really like that we're doing more stuff with icons, banners, and sprays. Uh, Starting to see some of those more unique things within the game. We went from having no emotes, no sprays, anything like that, to now we're getting some of that content, which is great to see. We have Crunch and Twin Blast skin. Now, I never played Paragon, Fault, any of those types of games. Pred's my first Paragon-esque game. So I don't know if these are recolors or reskins, anything like that from Pred, but from Paragon rather. But these look cool. The Crunch one, of course, I like a bunch for that. And then the Twin Blast one as well. And the Twin Blast one looks cool. So. Moving on, we have the price changes. A few heroes getting brought down in that regard. So kind of interesting. We're already making those sorts of changes, but it seems that they're just kind of evaluating those as we go. Now this is exciting. Explosive flowers. So for those of you that don't know, I have a pretty heavy background in League of Legends. So when I saw these explosive flowers, I was just like, "Oh great, we're getting the blast cones from League." I really like this. You know, some of the feedback that I always see and hear about that's kind of outside some of your more common feedback like matchmaking and such, and new map and give me ranked. is that there's not a lot of verticality, and I think this is a step in the right direction for that. I also like that they included a GIF or GIF, whatever you want to call it, in here within the patch notes, kind of showing how that works. You know, you have like your Gideons, you have heroes that can basically use the stairs and jump into the prime pit from here. Some of those heroes who maybe don't have that mobility are now able to kind of traverse the map or create outplays, get some terrain scaling that way, when otherwise they wouldn't. So they spawn at 4 minutes, 2 minutes 30 seconds after. Depending on how the meta kind of unfolds with these, could create some very unique plays or pathing, invades, etc. So they have them in the red jungle, blue jungle, and then the alcoves. So I'm excited to kind of see that, try that, see how that kind of works out for all of these. Yeah, coming from League, I didn't think I would like blast cones when they were first implemented in League, but they kind of grew on me. So I'm sure explosive flowers will be the same way for me. Jungle AI improvements. There's a lot here. I think from an offlane perspective, won't really do too much. It might kind of help an offlaner out if they get a lot of pressure in their lane and they can yank either the 5 or the 3 camp a certain way. Maybe not necessarily have to stand on top of the the camp, but being able to maybe yank that wave and get back to, or yank that camp, get back to lane faster and keep that tempo going. But overall, I think much needed changes for this. The one thing that I did see that might help when I fill, I know I had this issue, kind of filling and playing jungle, not knowing when to hunt. I think having that confirmation, especially if you're already doing that for lane minions on the last hit, you know, getting that visual confirmation on that. I'm very much a proponent of just make those visual changes. There's more important things to focus on in the game, and there isn't really skill expression when it comes to, oh, I know when to smite and all of that. You know, it's for me, it's those bigger ideas that really show some of the skill expression versus knowing when to smite certain objectives. So good stuff here. I'm kind of sad that we didn't see any minion AI improvements from the offline perspective. I've been really looking forward to seeing some of those. But jungle AI improvements also pretty good as well. Moving on, we have the item description improvements. Very quality of life stuff. Really helps visually instead of reading just a paragraph of text and maybe not knowing what's getting changed in the item without having to research it, right? So overall, really good here. I'm glad that they have this out and out here for us now. So kudos on that. Now, one of the biggest things I was looking forward to here, matchmaking. I won't beat a dead horse with this. I know a lot of people share the same sentiment. Glad this is out here now. Excited to try it. That's all really there is to say there for that. End of season rewards. I saw these. I really like that emerald green kind of style for the skins and all of that. So I'll be excited to see that. Account level is going to be reset and start doing all the leveling. I do like right here, you'll be getting the rewards immediately on levels. I did see some of that feedback from some players. You know, you sit with the whole season and you're like level 90 and like all this other stuff, and it's like, okay, great, like we're waiting months to basically see anything come out of that. So glad we're starting to see stuff given out per level. ties in with the amber, ties in with some icons and all that too. It's good to see some of this kind of coming together now for this. Controller updates. I don't play on controller, but I do know not being able to do stuff on the D-pad in the shop probably super frustrating. So controller players, this is for you. Looks like some auto run type stuff. And last purchased items. So some quality of life updates. So that's great. Other improvements, teammates pings on the scoreboard. Yes. Something I missed from League because, you know, sometimes people just ping garbage, right? And it doesn't contribute to the game. So I'm kind of glad that's in there now. Intro music, I don't play with music, but intro music is nice. Kind of gives you some vibes there and some AMD fidelity stuff. Cool. Countess hero changes. We have base mana increase, some power scaling, damage increased on the blade siphon. Maybe it helps her offlane a bit. I think the mana is some of the biggest stuff here, not necessarily the damage. Being able to spam more spells. I think in a laning phase, in a lot of matchups, she would be maxing her RMB, depending on who she's facing. On my knowledge, I think she's still maxing her E a lot in most matchups, but in those cases where she is maxing this, you're going to see that 10 difference. But being able to sling out 2 to 3 more spells in a recall is nice. I don't think it's enough to basically drastically make her a better offlaner, though, per se. Greystone, bug fix. Didn't really notice this playing him. If I paid more attention closely, I'm sure I would have seen something. Iggy. Some scaling on turrets. Okay. A lot of the changes so far are just kind of novelty. I don't think they're going to change that much. Now, Kwong. So what do they have for Kwong's description here? So general durability, failing to hit the mark, all of that. One of the things that stuck out to me at first here was seeing this bonus HP scaling to shield. So right now, Kwong, I've tested a lot of different builds on him. Eventually just conceded and started going the whole Fire Blossom Flux Matrix build that a lot of you have probably seen around. So some of these general changes don't think are going to ultimately do too much. It's just a lot of different shifting around, right? Knock-up height being decreased and stun duration decreased. I'm not exactly sure what's kind of happening here. It at first looks like a nerf, but it also could make the comboing a little bit cleaner, because I feel like people go really high into the sky when you're going for that tether catch. So I don't know if maybe there's like an issue with follow-up damage when you're trying to execute on your own damage after a catch like that. Might make that feel a little bit cleaner, even though it kind of looks like a nerf here. And then the shield decrease on the base, you know, whatever. You're getting this 8% bonus health scaling anyways. The 5% here is just a little bit nice. I don't think it's going to stop you from building stuff like Fire Blossom, etc., unless there's something else later on in these patch notes that would say otherwise. And dealing damage through walls. Yay! Never noticed this, but it's good to know. Morigesh. Based on this description here, ability to bully an offlane. I haven't seen her in offlane in a while. I might see her once in a while from the few individuals that do play Morigesh offlane. Overall, some decent changes for that, because depending on who you're playing into Morigesh offlane, it can suck. But if you're playing a hero that can take Titan's Crest and basically heal up some of that poke to get you through that early laning phase, that first like 13-ish minutes until you hit mid game, then you're in a decent spot. But if not, you're kind of in for a hard time. Narbash, just some healing changes, it looks like. Some more shifting around, the lowering of base stats and increase of this. For someone like Narbash, who's a support, I think increasing scaling isn't going to do that much, since you're a low economy role in hero anyways. Phase, some bug changes here. Rampage, really good jungler for the past little bit. So these changes I think were well warranted. Not too much else to say there. Revenant, looks like some changes, shifting around of mana, some physical armor. So it looks like they're just trying to make his early game a little bit better, with some more flat armor. Mana increase, typically when you do a mana increase, you're trying to get more spells slung out. Cool. Richter, what really stood out to me with Richter was the electrocute here. Extra HP scaling, good. Looks like that was also bugged, so it wasn't doing the full amount of damage. From an offlane perspective, I do typically max his E a lot, so getting some extra scaling and having that base damage do more. Cool. Going on cooldown immediately. This bug actually helps a lot in some of those offlane matchups, especially if you're going up against like your steals, your sevs, or random other shit that just cancels you out of the E. This has happened to me a lot playing Richter offlane, and it pisses me off. Casting twice, I've never seen that before. That's what initially stood out to me with the Richter changes. Mana getting decreased, fine. And then mana regen going down. But it also looks like with the RMB, the hook, they also decrease some of that mana. So it looks like they're just kind of tweaking some things, shifting the mana around a little bit. For offlane, you're not necessarily hooking to trade a bunch. You're doing some other trading and hooking later. So that kind of helps with that. I think it plays more in favor for offlane than it does for support. Then we have his ultimate, another instance of lowering base damage, increasing power scaling. Dareth, mana regen, really nice here. Sereth, we did see a little bit for a while. I know some people were playing Sereth as an answer to Steel in scrims and such, so I do enjoy taking her in offlane sometimes. I don't think any of these changes may necessarily make her like a must pick in offlane, but she's still kind of a situational pick or a fun pick if you're just picking her up to play her. The mana regen's nice with this change. A lot of the early laning kind of tagging with the RMB for that. Power scaling, so another set of increasing that scaling and lowering base damage like we've seen across the board with a lot of these. Ultimate kind of getting changed here at level 16. It's going to be lower than it was before, with only 5 seconds added on at 11. And then some attack speed increase with that, which is, it's nice. Some Sparrow changes. Looks like they're doing some general buffs that go towards quality of life, so I'll kind of trust them on that regard. I don't see anything sticking out to me that's super negative. Just kind of looking at that. So moving on to Wraith. A lot of adjustments. Looks like. I don't know if they're trying to hit him more towards carry than mid lane. Seeing some power scaling reduction. Slows getting changed. Physical penetration, that's getting changed. So it looks like it's ultimately getting increased here. If I'm reading that right. 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So more later, less early. Okay. And then the knock knock scaling for bonus. Great. I'm not sure increasing the magical power scan. I know Wraith is one of those heroes where sometimes people will slap on something. I haven't seen it too much lately, so I don't really see anything standing out to me here. Also, I don't necessarily play Wraith a ton, so some of these changes could be way more impactful. Item changes. Ice Scorn going up 5 seconds. I don't think this is going to change much for Ice Scorn. It's definitely the best warrior option out of everything in the warrior crest path. So I still think you'll be taking Ice Scorn Talons more often than not, except in situational sorts of scenarios where you'd maybe take Phoenix. And even those situations, you might still take Ice Scorn Talons instead. This Eviscerator, 90 seconds to 60 seconds. That's a pretty significant cooldown decrease. We'll see how that kind of pans out. Soul Chalice from a Feng Mao perspective, 2.5 to 2. We'll see how that kind of feels. It might not look like much here, so we'll have to ultimately see how that affects heroes like Feng Mao. I know Xeris sometimes picks this up as well for the Mind Razor. They're changing some critical strike damage increase for Imperator, multi-shot increase for Noxian Quiver. And then I did notice a lot of flat pen or assassin item changes. So they did some changes to Vanquisher, Dread. The Infernum one is kind of interesting here. It's getting some physical pen added on here. I don't know how the math kind of works for that one by taking the 10 physical power off. It might still be in favor of more damage. The build path still the same. I think it's still the two swords. Whether that is the physical pen or whether that is the CDR or haste rather. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe heroes like Kalari pick this up more often now, with there being some physical pen on there. Mind Razor, just some extra changes because of Soul Chalice. What I saw for the Perforator, this kind of jumped to me a little bit. An item that has percent pen and physical pen in the same item. A little bit weird. I understand what they were trying to go for here. I think this is just something you're going to pick up on every assassin now. I mean, you already kind of were, but the fact that you're getting flat pen and percentage pen in the same item, I don't know if I agree with that. But we'll see how it pans out. Painweaver, just some slight changes to Painweaver here. Physical pen per stack ultimately going down on that. So instead of I think it's the 12 that you get for 4 stacks, you just get 8 now. Kind of big. You're getting more increased speed though, so it kind of solidifies itself. Like if you've just got to be Sonic and go fast, you're gonna get Pain Weaver as an assassin. Basilisk, haste going from 20 to 15, still going to be a solid picked up item in my opinion. You're not picking up Basilisk for the haste. Losing 5 haste there means nothing. Berserker's Axe, the blitz damage getting decreased, but the scaling going from bonus health to max health. So, not sure. I might do some testing with it, but I don't think. I'm usually going to be picking up more items. Other item pickups prioritized over this Berserker's Axe, for sure. Bonesaw, looks like it was bugged. It's now fixed. These next 2 items are kind of the biggest item changes for Offlane for me. Surge going from 2% to 2.5%, really solid. Takedown scaling going up a whole 20% on takedown, kind of big. Especially when you compare it to Mutilator here, getting some extra damage to kind of compete with Fire Blossom. I'm definitely going to be testing some Mutilator Draconum builds, kind of throw it back to those crunch builds from when I started playing the Mutilator Draconum, Void Helm, basically 3 item core on crunch. I think is going to be pretty solid again from that perspective. So cool to see some of these changes. Fire Blossom's been kind of running rampant a little bit. So going something like Mutilator into those heroes might kind of help out a little bit from that regard. Overlord looks like I had some adjustments, shifting around of health and physical power, making that cleave a little bit stronger. Tainted Blade, shifting a power again. I don't typically build Tainted Blade too much. There are scenarios where I pick it up, but ultimately, where I would pick up this item doesn't change. I'm still picking it up in the same scenarios where I'd be picking it up before. These changes don't really change that for me. Azure Core, this seems kind of interesting. I'm generally not too much of a fan of the stacking items in this game as compared to something like League, but you know, it's great. I think the faster you can stack up your item, probably the better to get online. Magnify, 5 magical power. I want to like this item. I can't really, though. I feel like there's better items than Magnify to use, unfortunately. I do think it's a neat concept item. It has a lot going for it. I just don't think it's quite there. It's going to take more than 5 power for me to consistently pick up this item. We have Megacosm here. Some adjustments with the power. 5 more power, 5 less haste, and then it goes down 100 gold. So, not sure. I don't know if people take this more. If the 100 gold is kind of attractive for that. So maybe, maybe not. Generally, I'm only really building this on Shinbi anyways. Into some of those tank matchups to start with. Oathkeeper, another item that I want to like, but I don't really care for. I was building it on Kwang for a while, but then I started opting for a different kind of style of build. Getting a lot of haste up front was kind of nice, but again, with the Kwang build that I've been going, Flux kind of gives me more haste for what I need. Also, Oathkeeper, a lot of the time when I'm playing Kwang, for example, you aren't necessarily weaving your spells like you would Crunch. You're using your spells to go for a catch. You're dashing in right away. You're hitting that RMB. You're just blowing a lot of spells. You aren't weaving as much in those mid-game sort of scenarios. In lane, maybe. But by the time you'd be picking this up in like that Fire Blossom build, like I've seen some people build Oathkeeper third item, you're already kind of reaching mid game at that point. You're going for those tether dashing in. You aren't necessarily spacing out those spells because his passive already stacks up, right? You're not losing as much value. So you're losing value on the item, not necessarily his kit. Movement speed on Wraith leggings. I don't need Mori zooming away from me in these scenarios. Kind of nice from that perspective. I don't know how that affects the rest of the map, per se. Some changes to some of these support items. I don't see anyone build this or this. So some straight up buffs there. Maybe does something, maybe it doesn't. Elafrost. I don't think these changes are going to change Fire Blossom, per se. I think Fire Blossom's just too nuts of an item to the point where even in Magic matchups, you're still buying it first. Because Fire Blossom's just that insane. So it's going to either take more Fire Blossom nerfs or more Elafrost buffs to even consider this first item for me. I also think 15 flat damage is kind of laughable here for losing a whole percent here. I don't think that's really doing anything. Tainted Guard increase, this is getting moved up 100 gold. So compared to what I saw with Tainted Blade up here, maybe it kind of changes some scenarios now that they're making Tainted Guard more expensive. We'll kind of see how that plays out on the patch. We have a bunch of bug fixes here as well. Wong's passive titled incorrectly. I did not know Fang Mao could execute towers with his Earth Shatter. Never seen that in game before. But a pretty long list of bug fixes here for us. Known issues, cosmetics need to be re-equipped. I'll have to remember that. But overall, a pretty decent patch. A lot of stuff here. But I think with the hero changes, some of those novelty changes are just for the sake of changing certain things. It didn't really do too much. Like some of the Kwong stuff is a bit more significant. But I think outside of that, maybe the Wraith changes does some stuff. And of course, you know, as things kind of play out on the patch, things might change. But those are kind of my first thoughts based on the patch notes we have here. So I'll definitely be playing a lot more on this patch than I was before. I do want to get some gameplay in with the new Mutilator and Draconum on some crunch. Very excited to see these explosive flowers and kind of taking the step in direction for that. But I think everyone's just kind of looking forward to the matchmaking, as well as seeing what that first iteration kind of does for us in comparison to what we had. But that's all for now. Feel free to go ahead and leave a subscribe. I'm going to get some more gameplays out there. We have some Kwong, we have some Grux gameplay out there as of right now. Otherwise, you can find me over on my Twitch, where I just kind of stream sporadically as of right now. The best way to find out when I'm going live is most likely Twitter, or X, as you would call it now. But hope everyone is as excited as I am to try out this patch, and see you all out there.